The stars had always looked peaceful from Earth. For more than 100 years, humans looked up at them with hope. When the first alien ships arrived in the year 2147, people did not run or hide. They sent friendly messages. They built big stations to meet the visitors. They learned new languages and shared food, music, and stories. Humans wanted to be good neighbors in the galaxy. The aliens called their big group the Galactic Concord. It had dozens of species. Some looked like tall birds with bright feathers. Others were covered in hard shells or glowed softly like living light. Humans joined as the newest members. At first, everything seemed fair. Earth got new medicine that cured old diseases. Ships learned to travel faster than anyone thought possible. Trade grew. Human colonies appeared on distant worlds. But over time, things changed. The nice welcome started to feel one-sided. The Vorn, a proud species with gold skin and sharp minds, always got the best trade deals. They took more resources from human minds than they gave back. When humans asked why, the Vorn said it was standard procedure for new members. The Krell, large insect-like beings with many arms, were worse. Their raiding ships sometimes attacked human cargo vessels. They stole goods, then claimed the attacks were mistakes or tests of security. The Concord Council listened to complaints, nodded politely, and did almost nothing. Year after year, the pattern continued. A human settlement on a moon, called Harrow's Reach, lost its water supply when a Vorn company diverted the river for their own farms. Families had to ration every drop for months. Earth sent strong words. The Vorn paid a small fine and kept the water. Another time, a Krell war group accidentally bombed a research station during what they called a training exercise. The Concord called it regrettable and moved on to other business. Many humans tried to stay calm. They believed patience would win respect. Diplomats like John Harper spent long nights writing careful letters. He was a quiet man with gray hair and tired eyes. He always said the same thing in meetings: "We must show them we are better than revenge." His partner in the work, Lisa Monroe, agreed most of the time. She was younger, with quick thoughts and a warm smile that made even angry aliens listen. Together they kept talking, kept compromising, kept hoping. But not everyone agreed. Robert Klein had flown fighters in the early wars against pirates before First Contact. Now he commanded parts of the Earth fleet. His voice grew louder each year. At private dinners with other officers, he said things like, "Kindness is good until someone starts killing your people. Then, kindness becomes weakness." Many nodded quietly, but stayed silent in public. The real change began on a normal Tuesday in 2264. A passenger ship called Horizon Star carried families to a new colony. It had children laughing in the halls, parents reading stories, couples holding hands. The ship flew through open space on a safe route. Without warning, a Krell cruiser appeared. It fired once. The shot tore through the engine room. The Horizon Star drifted, helpless. Life support failed slowly. Rescue teams arrived too late. More than 400 people died. Among them was a boy named Ethan Brooks. His older sister, Karen Brooks, survived because she had stayed on Earth to finish her engineering studies. Karen watched the news feed over and over. She saw the burning ship. She heard the last messages from people trapped inside. One voice was her brother's. He said he loved her and was not scared. Then the line went dead. Karen sat in her small apartment for 3 days. She did not eat. She did not sleep. On the 4th day, she stood up, wiped her face, and went to the nearest news station. She did not cry on camera. Her voice stayed steady. She looked straight into the lens and said, "My brother is gone. Hundreds of others are gone. The Krell took them like it was nothing. The Concord did nothing. Earth has been nice for too long. We gave them our trust, our help, our patience. They gave us death. I say enough, no more. The words spread fast. People shared the video everywhere. On colony worlds, in crowded cities, in quiet farm towns, people watched Karen speak. Something broke inside them. Years of swallowed anger came up at once. Protests started small. A few hundred people in New Chicago marched with signs that read "No more free rides" and "Protect our own." The crowds grew to thousands, then tens of thousands. In 1 week, millions marched across Earth and the colonies. Leaders tried to calm things. They gave speeches about peace and dialogue. But the mood had changed. Factory workers walked off jobs until the government promised stronger defenses. Shipyards that once built trade vessels started plans for warships. Engineers like Karen worked around the clock. She helped design new shields that could take more punishment. She said little, but her hands moved fast and sure. In the Capitol, the Earth Council met in a closed room. John Harper sat at the long table. His face looked older than before. Lisa Monroe stood beside him. They had spent their lives building bridges. Now those bridges felt like chains. Robert Klein entered last. He carried a data pad with battle reports. He placed it on the table without a word. The president, a woman named Margaret Cole, spoke first. Her voice was soft but firm. "We have tried every path of peace. We have lost too many. The galaxy thinks we are weak because we choose not to fight. That ends today." One by one, council members voted. No one said no. The motion passed. Earth would no longer turn the other cheek. The fleet would prepare for war if needed. Trade would stop with those who harmed humans. Borders would close to threats. That night, a simple message went out to every channel the galaxy could receive. It was read by a calm voice, with no anger, only certainty. This is the United Earth Alliance. For generations we sought friendship and gave trust. That time is over. Attacks on our people, our ships, or our homes will receive full response. We declare our patience ended. We say one word now: enough. Across the galaxy, aliens listened. Some laughed. The Vorn Emperor watched the message in his throne room and called it a child's tantrum. Krell swarm leaders clicked their mandibles in amusement. Smaller species felt nervous. They remembered old stories about humans. How they looked soft, but survived ice ages, plagues, and wars on their own dangerous world. On Earth, people did not cheer loudly. They worked. Shipyards glowed through the night. Training fields filled with soldiers. Scientists tested weapons that had waited in storage for decades. Karen Brooks stood on a high platform above a new assembly line. She watched heavy armor plates move past on belts. For the first time in weeks, she allowed herself a small, tight smile. The galaxy had pushed humanity too far. Now the gentle newcomers were done being gentle. The stars no longer looked peaceful. They looked ready for what came next. The message from Earth reached every corner of known space within hours. It traveled on open channels, emergency bands, and trade relays. No fancy effects, no threats of doom, just clear words spoken by a calm voice. Humanity had reached its limit. From that moment, the galaxy paid attention in a new way. On Vorn Prime, the Emperor sat on his high throne of polished black stone. His advisors gathered around him like golden shadows. They played the human broadcast again. The Emperor tilted his head back and laughed. The sound echoed through the vast hall. "Look at these soft-skinned creatures," he said. "They bark like small dogs when the master finally steps on their tail. Let them bark. They will soon remember who holds the leash." His court laughed with him. They turned back to their feasts and games. The humans, they thought, were still the same weak newcomers. Deep in the hive clusters of the Krell homeworld, swarm lords clicked their mandibles in quick patterns. They watched the same message on glowing screens. One lord raised a forelimb. They speak of response. We have taken their cargo many times. They sent words then. Now more words. We will send ships to test this so-called limit. The others agreed, with sharp snaps of their jaws. They saw no danger. Humans had always backed down before. Smaller species reacted differently. The gentle Lyrans, who looked like floating clouds of light, whispered among themselves in worry. They had traded peacefully with Earth for decades. Now they wondered if the storm would touch them too. The armored Dracon clans stayed quiet. They respected strength, even if it came from unexpected places. On Earth, the days after the declaration felt strange. Streets were busy, but not with panic. People went to work. Children went to school. Yet underneath it all ran a quiet energy. Factories that once made cars and appliances now received new orders. Shipyards along the Pacific coast lit up at night. Welding sparks flew like stars falling to the ground. Huge freighters unloaded crates of rare metals and fusion cores. Everyone knew what was coming. Daniel Foster led the War Production Board. He was a tall man with short brown hair and hands that always looked stained from machine oil. Before the declaration, he ran a company that built fast passenger shuttles. Now he stood in command centers surrounded by screens and maps. He spoke plainly to his teams. We do not have centuries to prepare. We have months, maybe less. Every hour counts. Workers listened. They worked double shifts without complaint. New assembly lines rose in weeks instead of years. Ships took shape faster than anyone thought possible. Laura Evans worked beside him. She was a fleet tactician who once taught strategy at the academy. Her mind moved like quick water, always finding new paths. She looked at old battle records from human history and alien wars. She saw patterns the aliens missed. Humans did not fight like machines with fixed plans. Humans adapted. They bent rules. They used surprise. She wrote new doctrines for the fleet. Hit hard, move fast, learn in the fight, she told her officers. Never stand still to be hit twice. Stephen Grant handled the defenses around Earth and the main colonies. He had broad shoulders and a voice that carried across noisy rooms. His teams placed kinetic cannons in orbit. These weapons fired dense metal slugs at speeds that could crack moons. They built sensor nets that could spot a ship from light years away. They tested stealth drones that could slip past enemy scans and plant small bombs on hulls. Stephen walked the lines every day. He checked welds, he talked to crews. This is not a drill, he said. When they come, we make sure they regret it. The aliens sent spies. Small scout ships drifted near human systems. They watched from a distance. They saw the factories running without pause. They saw new hulls sliding out of construction bays. They saw training fields where thousands of soldiers practiced boarding actions and zero-gravity combat. The spies sent reports home. Many leaders read them and still laughed. Numbers do not lie, one Vorn admiral said. They build a few toys. We have fleets of thousands. They will fold when we show real power. But some aliens started to doubt. A Krell scout pilot returned with clear images of a new human carrier. It was bigger than anything they had seen from Earth before. Its flight deck could launch hundreds of fighters at once. The pilot spoke to his swarm lord. They moved with purpose, no fear in their steps. The swarm lord clicked in thought, but said nothing. Karen Brooks stayed busy. After her speech, she could have hidden from the spotlight. Instead, she took a lead role in weapons design. She worked in a large lab under a mountain. Her team built adaptive armor, plates that changed shape under fire to spread damage. They made torpedoes with smart guidance that learned from each miss. Karen rarely spoke about her brother now. She let her work talk instead. Late at night, when others slept, she stayed at her desk. She ran simulations. She fixed problems. Her eyes were tired, but sharp. John Harper and Lisa Monroe still tried diplomacy. They sent messages to neutral worlds. They asked for support, or at least for those worlds to stay out of any coming fight. Some listened. A few small systems quietly offered landing rights for human ships. Others said they would remain neutral. It was enough. Every ally, even a quiet one, helped. Robert Klein commanded the growing fleet. He stood on the bridge of the first new flagship, the UNS Vanguard. The ship smelled of fresh metal and ozone. Crews ran drills without rest. Robert watched them with steady eyes. He had seen humans fight before, on Earth, against each other, against nature. He knew what happened when they stopped holding back. "We gave peace a chance," he told his officers one evening. "Now we give them the truth. Humans do not break easy." Across the colonies, people felt the shift. On Mars, miners loaded extra ore for war production. On Titan, engineers tested cold-weather weapons. On distant outposts, families said goodbye to soldiers heading back to training. No one spoke of glory. They spoke of home. They spoke of making sure no more ships like Horizon Star would burn. The galaxy waited. Some mocked. Some watched. Some feared. Earth did not wait. It built. It trained. It remembered every loss. The declaration was not empty words. It was the start of something new. Humans had been nice because they chose to be. Now, they chose something else. In quiet moments, Daniel Foster stood outside the main factory. He looked up at the stars. They seemed closer now, brighter. He thought of the aliens laughing at the message. He thought of the fleets they would send. A small smile touched his face. "Let them come," he said softly. The galaxy would soon learn why humans had stayed quiet for so long. It was not weakness, it was choice, and that choice had ended. The galaxy did not wait long to test Earth's new words. Less than 3 months after the declaration, a mixed fleet gathered near the border system called Redoubt. 30 ships strong, 20 from the Vorn Empire, sleek and golden, with heavy beam weapons. 10 from the Krell swarms, bulbous and black, bristling with missile pods. They moved as one, confident and slow. Their target was simple. Take the human mining colonies in the system, claim the rich mineral fields, and show everyone that human threats were empty air. The Vorn admiral in charge, a tall figure named Zorath Vex, stood on his flagship bridge. He looked at the tactical display and smiled thinly. "They will see our strength and remember their place," he said to his officers. "Signal the Krell to form the vanguard. Let the insects draw first fire." The Krell swarm lords agreed without argument. They liked being first. It meant more loot. On the human side, the response came fast. Admiral Megan Torres received the alert on the bridge of the UNS Vanguard. She was a short woman with dark hair tied back tight, and eyes that missed nothing. She had spent years in quiet patrols. Now those years turned into action. She studied the incoming fleet on the main screen. Numbers were bad, 30 against her 12-ship group. But she did not frown. She nodded once. "Launch alert fighters," she ordered. "All ships to battle stations. We meet them at the outer marker. No retreat." The human fleet moved out from behind Redout's gas giant. They formed a loose crescent shape, carriers in the center, cruisers and destroyers on the wings. It looked weak on purpose. Megan wanted the enemy to feel safe. The battle started when the Krell ships crossed the system line. They fired first, a wave of fast missiles meant to overwhelm port defenses. Human ships answered with railgun salvos. Solid slugs punched through Krell hulls at impossible speeds. 3 insect ships broke apart in the first minute. Shrapnel spun away like broken toys. Zorath Vex watched from his bridge. His smile faded. "They fight back," he said. "Increase beam intensity. Burn their carriers." The Vorn ships pushed forward. Golden beams lanced across the black. One caught a human destroyer on the flank. The ship named UNS Resolve took the hit full. Armor glowed red, then white. Sections peeled away, but the ship did not die. It kept firing. Its crew sealed bulkheads and rerouted power. They returned fire with everything left. Megan Torres spoke into the fleet channel. Her voice stayed even. All wings, execute pattern delta, feint and scatter. Human fighters poured from the carriers, hundreds of small craft. They did not fly in neat lines like Vorn squadrons. They broke into wild groups. Some dove straight at the enemy. Others curved wide. A few turned back as if running, then looped around. Their targeting systems struggled with the chaos. One squadron of human fighters flew low over a Krell cruiser. They dropped small pods, escape pods packed with high explosives instead of people. The pods hit the hull and stuck. Seconds later they blew inward. Atmosphere vented in white clouds. The cruiser listed hard. Zorath Vex shouted orders. Focus fire on those fighters. Wipe them. But the human ships endured. Laura Evans had designed their armor with overlapping layers. When a beam struck, the outer plate cracked and fell away. Underneath, a new layer shifted into place. Ships took hits that should have ended them. They kept moving. They kept shooting. The battle stretched. Hours passed. Human tactics changed every few minutes. When the Vorn tried to flank, human destroyers pulled back, drawing them into missile traps. When the Krell swarmed, carriers launched fresh fighters that used suicide runs, pilots ejecting at the last second while their craft slammed home. Stephen Grant led a boarding team from a stealth shuttle. They slipped through the chaos and latched onto a damaged Vorn frigate. Marines in heavy suits cut through the hull. Inside, they moved fast. They took the bridge in minutes. The Vorn crew fought hard, but the humans fought harder. Grant's voice came over the comms. Frigate secured, sending her back against her friends. The captured ship turned. Its weapons fired on its old allies. Confusion spread through the enemy fleet. Zorath Vex felt the change. His golden skin paled. Reports came in fast. Losses climbed. 10 ships gone. 15. The Krell vanguard broke first. Surviving ships turned to run. The Vorn tried to hold the line, but human carriers closed in. They launched one final wave. Fighters and bombers hit the flagship together. Beams and torpedoes struck the Imperial Dawn. Shields failed. Hull breached. Fires bloomed along its length. Zorath Vex gave the order to withdraw. Only 8 ships limped away. The rest burned or drifted dead. On the human side, losses hurt. 4 ships destroyed. 3 heavily damaged. Hundreds of crew gone. But the fleet still stood. The colonies in Redoubt stayed free. Megan Torres stood on her bridge after the last enemy ship jumped out. Smoke hung in the air. Crew cheered quietly. She did not smile. She looked at the tactical display. Wreckage floated everywhere. She spoke to the fleet. We held. We proved the words were not empty. But this was only the start. They will come again. Stronger. We must be ready. Captured Krell and Vorn crew were taken aboard the carriers. They expected torture or death. Instead, medics treated their wounds. A simple message was recorded and sent with them when they were released on a neutral beacon. This was a warning, the recording said. We took no joy in your losses, but we will defend what is ours. Do not test us again. The footage of the battle spread fast. Alien news channels showed it without edits. The galaxy watched humans fight, not with rage, but with cold purpose. Ships that should have died kept fighting. Tactics no one had seen before. Fighters that turned and struck from blind spots. Panic started in quiet places first. Neutral worlds closed their ports to Vorn and Krell ships. Trade deals were paused. Smaller species whispered that maybe the humans had been holding back all along. On Vorn Prime, the Emperor watched the battle logs in silence. His laughter was gone. Advisors stood nervous. One spoke softly. They are not pets anymore. In Krell hives, swarmlords clicked in anger and fear. Their pride hurt worse than the losses. On Earth, people gathered in squares to watch the reports. No wild cheers, just nods. Karen Brooks saw the images from her lab. She thought of her brother. She went back to work without a word. Daniel Foster stood in a shipyard. New carriers rose around him. He looked at the sky. "They know now," he said to no one. "We are serious." The first blood had been drawn. The galaxy understood something new. Humans could be pushed. But when they pushed back, the stars felt smaller. The defeat at Redoubt spread like fire through dry grass. Alien news feeds replayed the battle over and over. Wrecked ships drifting, human fighters dancing through enemy formations. The message was clear. The gentle newcomers could bite hard. Panic grew in quiet rooms on many worlds. Leaders who once ignored Earth now spoke in low voices. They asked the same question: what comes next? On Vorn Prime, the Emperor no longer laughed. He stood in the war chamber surrounded by maps and glowing holograms. His advisors waited in silence. He spoke slowly. "We underestimated them. That mistake ends now." He turned to his fleet masters. "Call every ship. Pull reserves from the outer sectors. We will crush this before it spreads." The Krell hives buzzed with angry clicks. Swarm lords met in vast chambers, lit by bioluminescent walls. They had lost face, along with ships. One lord raised his voice above the rest. "We do not run from soft prey. We swarm them until nothing moves." They agreed to join forces fully. No more small raids. This time, total war. Word went out across the galaxy. The Vorn and Krell formed the core of a new coalition. They pulled in others who had old grudges or saw chance for gain. The crystalline Zoltar sent their sharp-edged warships. Their bodies reflected light like broken mirrors. The reptilian Dracon contributed heavy assault carriers. Their scales gleamed red under battle lights. Mercenary fleets from fringe systems joined for promised spoils. Thousands of ships gathered near the Orion Arm, the largest fleet seen in centuries. They chose a name for themselves, the Harmony Enforcers. They broadcast their purpose on every channel. The human threat must be removed, for the good of all. Their aggression disrupts order. Their worlds will be divided among those who stand for peace. The message sounded noble. Others simply feared being left out. The Armada massed at a staging point called Nexus Vale, a dark nebula that hid movements from long-range scans. Ships arrived daily. Golden Vorn dreadnoughts, black Krell hive carriers, crystalline lances, scaled behemoths. The numbers climbed past 4,000. Command fell to a joint council. The Vorn Emperor named himself Supreme Voice. No one argued. They sent their ultimatum to Earth. It arrived on every open frequency. A cold voice read the words: "United Earth Alliance, you have one cycle to surrender all military assets and open your worlds to occupation. Refuse, and your species faces complete removal from the galactic stage. The Harmony Enforcers will enforce compliance. There will be no second offer." On Earth, people listened in silence. No riots, no tears in public, just steady work. Daniel Foster stood in the main command bunker under Cheyenne Mountain. Screens showed the growing enemy fleet. "They think size wins wars," he said. "They forget we learned from our own mistakes." Laura Evans worked beside him. She pointed at the hologram. "They come in one big wave, predictable. We use that." She traced lines on the map. "Hit their supply lines first. Starve the beast before it reaches us." She traced lines again. "We do not wait behind walls," she said. "We go to them. We break their will from the inside." Karen Brooks pushed her team harder. New weapons rolled off lines. adaptive armor that learned from each hit, drones that jammed enemy sensors, torpedoes with swarm intelligence. Each one chose its own path after launch. She tested one in a sealed chamber. It split into smaller warheads mid-flight. Each found a weak spot. The test hull blew apart in clean sections. Karen watched without expression. Make more. John Harper and Lisa Monroe handled the quiet side. They contacted neutral systems one by one. No begging. Straight talk. Stay out and we remember. Join them and you choose your side forever. Some worlds agreed to neutrality. A few offered hidden bases, supply depots, repair yards. Small help, but enough to stretch human reach. Robert Klein took overall fleet command. He moved between ships on fast couriers. He spoke to captains face to face. We hit fast. We hit often. We never let them rest. His flagship, the UNS Vanguard, now carried extra fighter wings. Its hull showed fresh scars from redoubt. Crew called it lucky. The first strikes came without warning. Human raiders, small, fast groups, slipped into enemy space. They targeted supply convoys. Fuel tankers vanished in flashes. Ammunition depots burned. Repair stations lost power when stealth mines drifted in. Each loss hurt the coalition more than a battle. Ships needed fuel. Guns needed rounds. Without them, even the biggest fleet became statues. The Harmony Enforcers tried to hunt the raiders. They sent hunter groups. But humans knew the dark between stars better now. They used asteroid fields for cover. They jumped in, struck, jumped out. Losses stayed low. Enemy frustration grew. One raid stood out. A mixed team led by Megan Torres herself. She took a squadron of light cruisers and ghosted near a major Krell supply hub. They waited in the shadow of a dead moon. When the convoy arrived, they struck from 3 sides at once. Fighters swarmed the escorts. Railguns tore through hulls. Boarding parties took control of the main tanker. They set charges and pulled back. The explosion lit the nebula for hours. Thousands of tons of fuel gone. The coalition felt that one deep. Back at Nexus Vale, arguments broke out. Vorn officers blamed Krell for weak escorts. Krell blamed Vorn for slow response. Zoltar stayed silent, but watched everything. Drakon growled about honor. The Emperor tried to hold them together. Focus on the prize, he said. Earth itself. When we take their home, the rest falls. They set the date. 1 standard month. The full armada would move. Straight to Tau Ceti, a human stronghold with heavy defenses. They planned to overwhelm it in one push. End the war in days. On Earth, the mood stayed calm. People knew the storm came. Families spent time together. Workers finished projects. Soldiers wrote letters home. No fear ruled the streets. Just quiet resolve. Karen Brooks stood on a balcony, overlooking the main shipyard. New carriers slid into space. Lights glowed along their hulls. She thought of Ethan. She whispered to the night, "They will pay. Not for revenge, for everything." Daniel Foster walked the factory floors. Machines hummed without stop. He stopped at one line. Workers built missile racks. He nodded to them. "Keep going," he said. "They think numbers win. We show them will wins." The coalition prepared its final march. The humans prepared their trap. Both sides knew the next move would decide it all. The Tau Ceti system waited like a quiet trap. 4 human worlds circled the bright yellow star. Mining moons, industrial stations, a ring of defense platforms, and the main fleet base on Tau Ceti Prime. The Harmony Enforcers chose it for the final blow. Take this system, and Earth would stand alone. Break the heart, and the body falls. The Coalition Armada arrived in waves. First scouts, then lightships, then the main force. Over 4,000 vessels filled the outer orbits. Golden Vorn dreadnoughts led the way. Black Krell carriers followed. Crystalline Zoltar lances gleamed. Drakon assault ships growled forward. The Emperor watched from his flagship, the Imperial Glory. He spoke to the Joint Council. Today we end their dream. No mercy, no prisoners until victory is sure. On the human side, Admiral Megan Torres stood on the bridge of the UNS Vanguard. She looked at the enemy formation, numbers pressed against her like a wall, but her face stayed calm. "They come straight," she said. "Good, let them." She gave the order. All ships to positions. Activate the field. Human forces did not meet them head-on. They pulled back toward the inner system. Carriers hid behind gas giant moons. Cruisers drifted into asteroid belts. Fighters waited in dark pockets. The coalition pushed forward, thinking humans ran. They did not know the trap waited. The first clash came at the outer marker. Coalition scouts entered the asteroid field. Human stealth drones woke up. They sent false signals. Enemy sensors saw ghosts, phantom ships everywhere. The scouts fired at shadows. Wasteful shots lit the black. Then human raiders struck from the sides. Small groups of destroyers appeared, fired torpedoes, vanished again. 5 scout ships died before the coalition could turn. The Emperor frowned. Push through. Clear the field. The armada advanced. They reached the main belt. Asteroids tumbled slow and huge. Human ships used them like walls. They slid between rocks. They fired from cover. Railguns punched holes in worn hulls. Missiles curved around boulders to find weak spots. The coalition lost ships steadily. Each loss slowed them more. Megan Torres watched the display. "Now," she said, "launch Phase 1. Carriers emerged from behind moons. Hundreds of fighters poured out. They did not fly in tight groups. They spread wide. Some dove low toward enemy carriers. Others climbed high to hit dreadnoughts from above. Pilots used every trick Laura Evans had taught. Feints, rolls, sudden stops, suicide runs where the pilot ejected at the last second. Explosions bloomed like flowers across the enemy line. Krell carriers tried to launch their own swarms, but human drones jammed their bays. Doors stuck. Fighters died inside. The few that escaped met railgun fire. The insect ships burned bright. Daniel Foster coordinated from Earth. His voice came over secure channels. Missile saturation now. All tubes. Thousands of missiles launched from hidden platforms. They flew in waves. Smart guidance let them split. Some drew fire. Others slipped through. Coalition shields glowed under the rain. Many held. Some cracked. A Zoltar lance shattered when 3 missiles hit the same spot. Crystal shards spun away like broken glass. The coalition pushed deeper. They wanted the planets. They wanted the factories. They thought numbers would win. But human ships endured. Armor shifted. Power rerouted. Crews fought fires and kept guns hot. One cruiser, the UNS Defiant, took beam after beam. It lost half its hull. It still fired. Its last torpedo found a Draken carrier. Both ships died together. Stephen Grant led the boarding actions. Its teams used small stealth boats. They latched onto damaged enemy ships. Marines cut in. They moved fast through corridors. They took bridges. They turned guns on old friends. One captured Vorn frigate fired full broadsides into the Imperial Glory. The dreadnought shook. Alarms screamed. The Emperor shouted orders. Focus fire. Kill that traitor ship. But the damage spread. Command faltered. Ships waited for orders that never came. Confusion grew. Laura Evans saw the break. Flank them now. Cut the head. Megan Torres gave the word. The main human fleet surged forward. Carriers stayed back to launch more fighters. Cruisers and battleships closed in. They hit the coalition center. Railguns roared. Fusion torpedoes burned through armor. The Imperial Glory took hit after hit. Its shields failed. Hull plates peeled. Fires spread along its length. Stephen Grant's Marines breached the flagship bridge. They fought room to room. Vorn guards fell. The Emperor stood at his command throne. He drew a ceremonial blade. Grant faced him. No words, just action. The fight lasted seconds. The bridge went silent. With command gone, the coalition broke. Ships turned to run. Some jumped away. Others tried to fight on. Human forces hunted them down. Fighters chased stragglers. Cruisers finished wounded giants. The battle stretched into hours, then days. Wreckage filled the orbits. Thousands of alien ships burned or drifted dead. When the last enemy vessel jumped out, silence fell over Tau Ceti. Human ships hung in space, damaged, bleeding air, but standing. Megan Torres spoke to the fleet. Her voice carried quiet pride. We held. We won. Go home to your families. You earned it. On Earth, people watched the reports. No loud cheers, just relief. Families hugged. Workers stopped machines for the first time in months. Karen Brooks stood in her lab. She saw the final images, the Imperial glory breaking apart. She closed her eyes. For you, Ethan, she whispered. John Harper and Lisa Monroe sent messages to the galaxy. Short words. The war is over. We seek no empire. But we will keep what is ours. Let peace return on honest terms. The Galactic Concord collapsed. Old leaders stepped down. New voices rose. Species that once mocked humans now spoke carefully. Trade resumed slowly. Borders redrew. Human space grew respected, not feared blindly, respected. Years later, children learned the story in school. How humans stayed kind until kindness cost too much. How they said, enough, and meant it. How the stars trembled when they fought. Robert Klein retired to a quiet farm on Tau Ceti Prime. He looked at the sky each night. Stars still shone, but they looked different now. Brighter, safer. Daniel Foster walked empty factories. Machines slept. He smiled. We built what we needed, then we stopped. Laura Evans taught new officers. She told them one thing above all. Fight smart, fight hard, but choose when to fight. Megan Torres took a new command. She flew among the stars. She watched for threats. She hoped none came. The galaxy remembered. Humans had not sought war, but when pushed to the edge, they showed what waited behind the gentle face. Kindness had limits, and when those limits broke, the universe learned why humans had stayed quiet so long. They could be the most dangerous thing in the stars.